A posteriori necessity. The idea that some truths, although known through experience, are necessarily true in all possible worlds. For example, discovering that water is H2O is an empirical fact, yet it remains true in every conceivable scenario. A posteriori necessity bridges the gap between experience and universal truth, challenging us to rethink the boundaries of knowledge and necessity. A series and B series. The A series portrays time as flowing, with events categorized as past, present, or future, while the B series views time as a fixed sequence of earlier than or later than relationships. The A series feels intuitive, reflecting how we live through time, while the B series suggests a block universe where time is static and eternal. This debate continues to shape discussions in metaphysics, physics, and the philosophy of time. Absolute. Philosophy. The absolute is the ultimate, unconditioned reality that exists independently of all relations or perspectives. It is a state of being or truth that transcends all contingencies, often equated with God or the infinite. Philosophers debate whether the absolute is accessible to human understanding or forever beyond our grasp. Absolute space and time. Isaac Newton described absolute space and time as an unchanging, infinite framework where objects and events unfold. This contrasts sharply with Einstein's relativity, where space and time are dynamic and influenced by mass and energy. The concept of absolute space and time invites us to question whether the universe has a fixed stage or a fluid, interactive structure. Abstraction. Abstraction is the process of distilling the essence of something by removing its specific details. For instance, the concept of redness is abstracted from observing various red objects. This ability to generalize is a cornerstone of human cognition, enabling us to form concepts, theories, and even languages. Accidental necessity. Accidental necessity refers to how contingent events become inevitable due to past occurrences. For example, once a decision is made, its consequences seem locked into reality, even though they originally depended on chance. This concept blurs the line between free will and determinism, raising questions about how much of the future is truly open. Active intellect. In Aristotelian philosophy, the active intellect is the faculty that transforms potential knowledge into actual knowledge. It allows the human mind to connect with universal truths and abstract ideas beyond sensory experience. Often likened to a divine spark, it is essential for understanding metaphysical principles and attaining intellectual enlightenment. Actual infinity. Actual infinity refers to the concept of infinity as complete and present, rather than merely potential or endless. Mathematically, it's the idea of infinite sets, like the set of natural numbers, existing as a whole. Philosophers and mathematicians debate whether actual infinity exists in the physical world or remains purely theoretical. Actus primus. Actus primus, or first act, is the foundational actuality that makes all potentialities possible. It represents the initial realization of being, like the ignition that brings a car to life. This concept underscores the distinction between mere potential existence and the reality of something actively existing. Actus purus. Actus purus, meaning pure act, is a state of being with no potentiality, often attributed to God as the ultimate perfect actuality. It signifies a reality that is fully realized, unchanging, and self-sufficient. In metaphysics, it serves as a model for understanding perfection and the nature of ultimate existence. Evum. Evum refers to a unique mode of existence that is eternal yet not timeless, often used to describe angels or other celestial beings. It exists between the temporal world and the timeless eternity of the divine. The concept invites reflection on how different forms of being might experience time. Aletheia. Aletheia, the Greek word for truth, means unhidden or revealed, suggesting that truth is something uncovered rather than constructed. It challenges the notion of truth as fixed, proposing instead that it emerges through a process of discovery. Rooted in Heidegger's philosophy, Aletheia invites us to engage with truth as a dynamic and unfolding reality. Allegory of the Cave. Plato's allegory of the cave depicts prisoners who see only shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality. One prisoner escapes, discovers the world of light, and realizes the truth beyond the shadows. This timeless metaphor explores the journey from ignorance to enlightenment and the difficulty of communicating higher truths to those still trapped in illusion. Always already. The concept of always already emphasizes that we are never in a neutral starting point. We are always shaped by prior contexts, histories, and meanings. For instance, before we make a choice, we are already embedded in a web of influences and assumptions. This idea, central to existentialism and deconstruction, highlights the interconnectedness of past, present, and future. Analogy of the divided line. Plato's divided line is a metaphor for levels of knowledge, ranging from illusion and belief to reason and pure understanding. The visible world represents the lower levels, while the intelligible world represents the higher eternal truths. This analogy underscores the philosopher's journey from appearances to ultimate reality. Anatman, Hinduism. Anatman, or no self, rejects the idea of a permanent, unchanging soul, emphasizing that the self is a collection of transient experiences and conditions. Central to Buddhist thought, it challenges attachment to the ego and fosters a deeper understanding of interconnectedness. This doctrine invites us to let go of illusions of permanence and embrace the fluid nature of existence. B theory of time. The B theory of time asserts that all moments, past, present, and future, exist equally, like points on a map. Unlike the flowing perception of time in the A theory, this view treats time as a static dimension. This challenges our intuitive sense of time's passage, suggesting that change and movement might be illusions. Being. Being refers to the fundamental nature of existence, the what it means to be. It's the central focus of metaphysics, often explored through questions like, what is real, or what is the essence of things? Philosophers from Parmenides to Heidegger have grappled with whether being is unified, dynamic, or beyond human comprehension. Best of all possible worlds. Leibniz's optimistic idea that this world, despite its imperfections, is the best arrangement of all possibilities. It suggests a harmony orchestrated by a benevolent God who balances good and evil for maximum benefit. Critics, like Voltaire, argue this glosses over suffering, but the concept challenges us to see hidden rationality in chaos. Body without organs. Deleuze and Guattari's metaphor for breaking free of hierarchical structures and fixed identities. The body without organs represents pure potentiality. It rejects the imposed organs of social, cultural, and biological systems. This provocative concept urges a rethinking of human agency and creativity beyond societal constraints. Bradley's regress. Bradley's regress arises when explaining relationships between entities requires an infinite chain of further relationships. For instance, if two objects are related, what explains the connection between them? This paradox questions the coherence of relational thinking and pushes metaphysics toward understanding unity in diversity. Causa sui. The Latin phrase cause of itself refers to something that is self-caused, such as God in classical theology or Spinoza's notion of substance. It defies ordinary causality by positing a being whose existence is intrinsic. Philosophers debate whether anything can truly exist without external cause. Causal closure. The principle that physical events can only have physical causes, central to debates about mind-body dualism. If causal closure is true, mental phenomena must be reducible to physical processes. This idea is pivotal in defending physicalism, but challenges the autonomy of consciousness and free will. Causal model. A framework for understanding how one event causes another, often using diagrams or mathematical structures. Causal models aim to clarify complex systems, distinguishing correlation from causation. They're widely used in science, philosophy, and economics to map dependencies and predict outcomes. Centered world. A centered world adds a specific perspective to possible world theory, grounding it in an individual's viewpoint. It asks how reality might appear from a specific center, such as a person's experiences. This concept has implications for understanding subjective truth and indexicality, like I or here. Chain of events. The idea that every event is linked to another in a sequence of cause and effect. Philosophers question whether such chains are infinite or have a starting point. The chain of events underpins debates about determinism, free will, and the nature of causality. Klineman. Lucretius's idea of a random swerve in atoms that breaks determinism and allows for creativity and free will. This microscopic unpredictability gives rise to the macroscopic world's richness and variation. The Klineman inspires modern discussions of chaos theory and quantum mechanics. Coincidence. Coincidence is the surprising alignment of events with no apparent causal connection. It raises questions about whether such alignments are random or guided by hidden patterns. Philosophers explore coincidence in terms of probability, synchronicity, and the human tendency to find meaning. Concept. A concept is a mental representation or general idea that enables us to categorize and understand the world. Concepts bridge the gap between perception and thought, giving structure to raw experience. They're fundamental to communication, reasoning, and knowledge itself. Condition of possibility. Kant's idea of the preconditions necessary for something to exist or be known, like space and time for experience. It highlights that understanding reality depends on the framework of human cognition. These conditions shape what we can know, limiting but also enabling our grasp of the world. Conscious automatism. A paradoxical state where actions are automatic but guided by awareness, like playing an instrument without consciously thinking of every movement. It challenges the binary of conscious versus unconscious, suggesting that mastery involves seamless integration of the two. This concept has implications for skill, habit, and creativity. Consequence. Argument. An argument for incompatibilism, stating that if determinism is true, we have no control over the consequences of natural laws and past events. This suggests free will is an illusion, as we can't change what is logically inevitable. The argument continues to fuel debates on determinism and human agency. Constant conjunction. David Hume's principle that causation is inferred from repeated observation of one event following another. It challenges the idea of causation as a necessary connection, instead viewing it as a habit of thought. This skepticism reshaped how philosophers and scientists approach causality. Construct, philosophy. A construct is a conceptual framework or idea created to explain and organize experience, often rooted in social or cultural contexts. Constructs shape how we perceive reality, from race to gender, revealing the power of ideas to influence behavior and institutions. Philosophers explore constructs to uncover hidden biases and assumptions. Constructional system. A philosophical method, like Carnap's, that seeks to build all knowledge systematically from a foundation of logical principles. It prioritizes precision and clarity, aiming to unify science and philosophy under a single framework. Critics question whether such systems can capture the full complexity of human experience. Continuum. Measurement. A continuum is a seamless range of values without discrete divisions, like the spectrum of colors or the real number line. It contrasts with quantized or categorical measurements, emphasizing the fluidity of certain phenomena. Philosophers debate whether reality is inherently continuous or discrete. Cosmological argument. A classical argument for the existence of God based on the principle that everything has a cause. It posits that the universe must have a first cause or necessary being to explain its existence. This argument raises profound questions about infinite regress and the nature of ultimate reality. Differentia. Differentia refers to the quality or characteristic that sets one entity apart from others within the same category. It's crucial in Aristotle's definition of species, combining the genus with a unique property to form a complete concept. Philosophers use it to explore how distinctions shape identity and understanding. Downward causation. Downward causation occurs when higher-level phenomena influence or determine the behavior of lower-level components. For instance, societal norms shaping individual actions. This challenges reductionist views, emphasizing the interplay between levels of reality and the emergence of complex systems. Dysteleology. Dysteleology is the belief that the universe lacks purpose or design, often associated with atheistic or materialistic philosophies. It challenges teleological views by arguing that life and nature result from blind processes rather than intentional planning. This raises profound questions about meaning in a purposeless world. Ecstasy, philosophy. In philosophy, ecstasy refers to a state of being outside oneself, often associated with heightened awareness or transcendence. For Heidegger, it's an essential aspect of human existence, as we project beyond our immediate experience. This concept bridges metaphysics, spirituality, and existentialism. Ekam. A Sanskrit term meaning the One, Ekam signifies the ultimate, indivisible reality in Hindu philosophy. It represents the unity underlying the apparent diversity of the universe, aligning with non-dualist traditions like Advaita Vedanta. Ekam highlights the pursuit of oneness amid multiplicity. Elan vital. Bergson's concept of elan vital describes a creative life force driving evolution and the dynamism of existence. Unlike mechanistic views, it emphasizes spontaneity and novelty in life's development. This idea challenges reductionist biology, suggesting a deeper metaphysical energy shaping life. Emergence. Emergence refers to the arising of complex systems or properties from simpler components that don't exhibit those qualities. Examples include consciousness emerging from neural networks. This concept reshapes debates about reductionism, suggesting that wholes can't always be fully explained by their parts. Emergentism. Emergentism expands on emergence, proposing that higher-level phenomena arise from lower-level processes but maintain irreducibility. For instance, the mind emerges from the brain but isn't fully explainable in physical terms. It bridges metaphysics, philosophy of mind, and the philosophy of science. Empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand and share another's feelings or experiences, creating a bridge between self and other. It plays a key role in ethics, aesthetics, and social philosophy, highlighting the intersubjective nature of human existence. Philosophers explore whether empathy is innate, cultivated, or limited. Empty name. An empty name refers to a term that lacks a referent in reality, such as unicorn or Sherlock Holmes. This raises questions in semantics and metaphysics about how language relates to existence. Philosophers debate whether such names have meaning or are purely fictional constructs. Entity. An entity is something that exists either concretely, like a tree, or abstractly, like numbers. It's the fundamental unit of metaphysical inquiry, serving as the basis for questions about existence, essence, and identity. Philosophers seek to classify and understand entities within different ontologies. Epiphenomenon. An epiphenomenon is a secondary effect that arises from but doesn't influence a primary process, like steam from a train. In philosophy of mind, it's used to argue that consciousness is a byproduct of physical processes without causal power. This sparks debates about free will and mental agency. Eternal return. The eternal return posits that all events will repeat infinitely in a cyclic manner, a concept found in Nietzsche and ancient philosophies. It challenges us to live as if every choice will echo eternally. This idea raises profound questions about time, recurrence, and the meaning of life. Eternity of the world. The eternity of the world explores whether the universe has always existed or had a beginning. Thinkers like Aristotle and Aquinas debated whether the cosmos is eternal or created in time. This concept intersects with theology, cosmology, and metaphysics. Event. Philosophy. An event is a happening or change that occurs in time and space, distinct from static entities. Events are central to process philosophy and metaphysical debates about causality and time. They raise questions about what makes a moment significant or real. Evil. Evil is often defined as the absence of good or the presence of profound suffering and wrongdoing. It's central to moral philosophy, theology, and metaphysics, particularly in discussions of theodicy. Philosophers question whether evil is necessary for free will or merely a product of human action. Evil demon. Descartes' evil demon is a thought experiment where a malevolent being deceives us about everything we perceive. It questions the reliability of knowledge and the senses, forming the foundation for Cartesian skepticism. This concept challenges us to seek indubitable truths amidst doubt. Four causes. Aristotle's concept of the four causes explains why things exist or happen. The material cause refers to the substance something is made of, e.g., marble for a statue. The formal cause is its shape or essence, the statue's design. The efficient cause is the agent or process that brings it into being, the sculptor. Finally, the final cause is the purpose or goal it serves, beauty or commemoration. Together, these provide a comprehensive framework for understanding causality in both natural and human-made phenomena. Frankfurt cases. Frankfurt cases are thought experiments challenging the principle of alternative possibilities, which holds that free will requires the ability to do otherwise. In these cases, a person makes a decision freely, but an external mechanism ensures the same choice if they decide otherwise. For example, a device could compel a voter to choose a particular candidate, but if the voter willingly chooses that candidate, the device is never activated. These cases argue that moral responsibility doesn't necessarily depend on having alternatives. Free will. Free will is the capacity to make choices that are not determined by prior causes or external constraints. It's central to debates in ethics, metaphysics, and philosophy of mind, questioning whether humans are truly autonomous or merely products of causal chains. Compatibilists argue that free will can coexist with determinism, while libertarians insist on true freedom, and hard determinists deny it altogether, leaving us to grapple with the nature of agency and moral accountability. Further facts. Further facts refer to additional metaphysical truths that go beyond the physical world or reducible properties. For instance, the idea that there's something it feels like to be a person, subjective experience, is considered a further fact. They often appear in discussions about personal identity, consciousness, and whether physicalism can fully explain reality. These facts challenge reductionist views, emphasizing the possibility of realities that elude physical explanation. Geist, often translated as spirit or mind, is a key concept in Hegel's philosophy, referring to the collective consciousness and cultural development of humanity. It represents both individual self-awareness and the unfolding of historical progress as a rational process. Geist embodies the unity of thought and reality, linking personal freedom with the larger evolving structure of society. Genidentity. Genidentity is the continuity of identity over time, explaining how an entity persists despite changes. Coined by Kurt Lewin, it's often used in physics and metaphysics to trace an object's existence through transformations, like a river's flow maintaining its identity. Genidentity raises questions about what constitutes the same entity in dynamic systems. Gestell. Gestell, or enframing, is a concept from Heidegger describing the modern technological worldview that treats everything, including humans, as resources to be ordered and utilized. It critiques the reduction of existence to mere utility, urging us to rediscover more authentic ways of relating to the world beyond technological dominance. Good. The good in philosophy refers to the ultimate aim of ethical behavior and the ideal state of being. Plato viewed it as the highest form, illuminating all knowledge and reality, while others see it as the basis for moral action. Philosophers debate whether the good is subjective, objective, or rooted in divine will, shaping ethics and metaphysical inquiry. Grounding, metaphysics. Grounding explores the relationship between fundamental and derivative aspects of reality, answering why certain things exist or hold true. For instance, a table's existence is grounded in its material components and arrangement. This concept helps philosophers explain dependency, causality, and the structure of reality. Grouped events. Grouped events refer to collections of occurrences treated as a single entity or process, such as a historical revolution or a complex system's behavior. Philosophers use this concept to explore causation, temporal relations, and how multiple events create unified phenomena. This challenges simplistic views of causality and highlights the interdependence of events. Growing block universe. The growing block universe is a theory of time where the past and present exist, but the future does not yet. Time is like a growing block, expanding as events occur. This contrasts with eternalism, where all times are equally real, and presentism, where only the present exists. It raises questions about the nature of temporal experience and the openness of the future. Hauntology. Hauntology, a concept from Derrida, examines how the past haunts the present through lingering traces, unfulfilled promises, or lost futures. It's used in cultural theory to analyze nostalgia, memory, and the persistence of unresolved historical or ideological tensions. Hauntology challenges linear narratives, emphasizing the spectral nature of existence. Hempel's dilemma. Hempel's dilemma challenges physicalism by questioning what physical means. Is it based on current physics, incomplete, or future physics, unknown? This dilemma highlights the difficulty of defining physicalism in a way that avoids circularity or oversimplification. It's central to debates about the nature of reality and the limits of science. Hypostatic abstraction. Hypostatic abstraction is the process of reifying a property or relation into an entity, such as turning redness into an abstract object separate from red things. Introduced by Charles Sanders Peirce, it's central to discussions of abstraction, semantics, and ontology, as it reveals how language and thought shape metaphysical concepts. Idapakayata. A Pali term meaning specific conditionality. Idapakayata describes the Buddhist principle of dependent origination. All phenomena arise due to specific conditions and cease when those conditions are absent. It emphasizes interdependence, showing that nothing exists independently, and underscores impermanence, a core aspect of Buddhist philosophy and meditation. Idea. An idea is a mental construct or representation of a concept, object, or thought. Philosophers like Plato viewed ideas as eternal forms, while Locke saw them as sensory-derived mental impressions. Ideas drive human creativity, innovation, and philosophical inquiry, forming the foundation of abstract thinking and knowledge. Inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning involves deriving general principles from specific observations. For instance, seeing multiple white swans might lead to the conclusion that all swans are white. While powerful for discovery, it lacks certainty since conclusions may be overturned by new evidence, forming a central tension in scientific and philosophical reasoning. Inference. Inference is the process of deriving conclusions from premises or evidence, connecting known information to new insights. Deductive inferences guarantee truth if premises are true, while inductive inferences provide probabilistic conclusions. It's a cornerstone of logic, guiding rational decision-making and philosophical analysis. Infinite qualitative distinction. Proposed by Kierkegaard, this distinction separates God from humanity, emphasizing the infinite difference between the divine and finite beings. It highlights the paradox of faith. Humans can only relate to God through subjective experience, despite their inherent limitations. This concept is central to existential theology. Information. Information is data structured in a way that conveys meaning, from binary code in computers to DNA in biology. Philosophers debate whether information is purely physical or also involves abstract properties, raising questions about its role in consciousness, communication, and the fundamental structure of reality. Integrative level. Integrative levels describe a hierarchy of complexity, where new properties emerge at higher levels of organization, e.g., atoms, molecules, organisms. Each level transcends and integrates the previous, forming a framework for understanding evolution, consciousness, and the layered structure of reality. Internal-external distinction. This distinction refers to whether phenomena arise from within a system, internal, or from interactions with external factors. For example, internal desires shape personal choices, while external pressures influence behavior. It's pivotal in analyzing causality, agency, and the nature of systems. Introspection. Introspection is the self-examination of one's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It plays a crucial role in understanding consciousness and self-awareness. Philosophers debate its reliability, with skeptics questioning its accuracy and advocates emphasizing its central role in phenomenology and personal growth. Is-ought problem. Hume's is-ought problem highlights the difficulty of deriving moral imperatives, what ought to be, from factual statements, what is. For example, knowing that humans are social animals doesn't automatically justify moral obligations. It challenges attempts to ground ethics purely in descriptive facts, demanding a bridge between reality and values. Kant's antinomies. Kant's antinomies highlight contradictions that arise when reason tries to grasp the nature of the universe. For instance, one antinomy argues both that the universe has a beginning in time and that it is eternal. These paradoxes, explored in Critique of Pure Reason, show the limits of human reason, emphasizing that metaphysical questions often exceed what can be resolved by experience or logic. Life world. Introduced by Husserl, the life world refers to the pre-reflective world of everyday experience, shaped by cultural, social, and historical contexts. It's the grounding reality from which scientific or theoretical abstractions emerge. By examining the life world, phenomenology seeks to uncover how meaning is constituted in our lived experience. Mental representation. Mental representation refers to the way the mind stores and processes information about the world, such as concepts, images, or symbols. It underpins perception, thought, and language, bridging the external world with internal cognition. Philosophers debate its nature, with some seeing it as neurological and others as abstract. Mental substance. mental substance central to Cartesian dualism, posits that the mind exists as a non-material entity distinct from the body. This substance is characterized by thought as opposed to physical extension. The idea invites questions about the relationship between mental and physical realms, sparking ongoing debates in metaphysics and philosophy of mind. Mental world. The mental world encompasses the realm of thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and subjective experiences. Unlike the physical world, it is accessed introspectively. Philosophical discussions focus on its relation to the external world, exploring whether it is independent, causally linked, or reducible to brain activity. Meontology. Meontology, from Greek me-on, non-being, studies what is beyond or outside being, such as absence, negation, or the void. Prominent in existentialism and postmodern thought, it challenges traditional metaphysical focus on being, emphasizing the importance of absence and nothingness in understanding existence. Metaphysical necessity. Metaphysical necessity refers to truths that must hold in all possible worlds, such as 2 plus 2 = 4, or the existence of certain logical principles. Unlike physical or contingent necessity, metaphysical necessity deals with the essential structure of reality, guiding debates on modal logic and the nature of possibility. Metaphysics of presence. The metaphysics of presence critiques the philosophical tendency to privilege immediacy, stability, or fixed meaning. Associated with Derrida, it argues that this focus on presence overlooks the dynamic, deferred, and relational nature of meaning, emphasizing instead the role of absence and difference in shaping reality. Mill's methods. John Stuart Mill's methods are a set of logical techniques for identifying causal relationships, including methods of agreement, difference, and concomitant variation. For instance, the method of difference isolates causes by comparing instances where an effect occurs with those where it doesn't. These methods are foundational in empirical science and reasoning. Mind. The mind encompasses the faculties of thought, perception, emotion, and consciousness, shaping our understanding of reality. Philosophers explore its nature. Is it an emergent property of the brain, a separate substance, or something else entirely? Questions about its origin, function, and relation to the body remain central to philosophy and neuroscience. Mind-body dualism. Mind-body dualism, popularized by Descartes, posits that mind and body are distinct entities. The mind is immaterial and the body physical. This view raises the interaction problem, how the two interact, spurring alternative theories like physicalism, panpsychism, and emergentism to address the relationship between mental and physical states. Monad, philosophy. Leibniz's monads are indivisible, metaphysical units that form the building blocks of reality. Each monad is self-contained, reflecting the entire universe from its perspective, yet they do not interact directly. This concept unites metaphysics, theology, and science, portraying reality as a harmonious, preordained system. Mono-no-aware. Mono-no-aware is a Japanese aesthetic concept expressing the gentle, melancholic awareness of impermanence. It highlights the beauty of fleeting moments, such as cherry blossoms falling in spring. Rooted in Zen and Shinto traditions, it encourages mindfulness and appreciation for life's transience. Multiple occupancy view. The multiple occupancy view in metaphysics holds that multiple entities can coexist in the same space under different descriptions or conditions. For instance, a statue and the clay it's made from might occupy the same space but are conceptually distinct. This view challenges traditional notions of identity and persistence. Musica universalis. Musica universalis, or the music of the spheres, is an ancient philosophical concept that views the movements of celestial bodies as creating a cosmic harmony. Though inaudible, this metaphorical music reflects the unity and order of the universe. It inspired works in metaphysics, cosmology, and the arts, bridging science and spirituality. Negative capability. Coined by poet John Keats, negative capability is the ability to embrace uncertainty, doubt, and ambiguity without grasping for concrete answers. It allows for creative exploration and the suspension of logical resolution, making it essential in art, literature, and existential philosophy. Non-physical entity. A non-physical entity refers to something that exists without material form, such as a soul, thought, or abstract object, e.g., numbers. Philosophers debate whether such entities truly exist independently or are conceptual constructs arising from human cognition. Non-existent objects. Non-existent objects are entities that can be conceived or described but do not exist in reality, such as unicorns or fictional characters. They challenge the nature of existence, sparking debates on whether and how we can meaningfully refer to things that do not exist. Noosphere. The noosphere is a concept introduced by Teilhard de Chardin, describing a collective sphere of human thought, shaped by culture, ideas, and innovation. It represents an evolutionary step beyond the biosphere, envisioning a world where consciousness and technology increasingly shape reality. Nothing. Philosophers have long wrestled with nothing, questioning its nature and whether it can truly exist. For example, Heidegger explores the nothing as central to the experience of being, while others see it as a conceptual placeholder or linguistic construct, rather than an ontological reality. Noumenon. In Kantian philosophy, the noumenon refers to the thing in itself, existing independently of human perception. While we can only experience phenomena, appearances filtered through our senses, the noumenon remains inaccessible, representing reality beyond human cognition's limits. Object of the mind. An object of the mind is anything the mind directs its attention to, whether real or imagined, such as ideas, memories, or emotions. It forms the basis of intentionality in phenomenology, emphasizing the mind's directedness toward something external or internal. Omega point. Proposed by Teilhard de Chardin, the omega point is a future state of ultimate complexity and consciousness toward which the universe evolves. It combines metaphysical, scientific, and theological ideas, suggesting a unifying endpoint where matter, life, and thought converge. Other philosophy. The other is a concept central to existentialism and phenomenology, referring to individuals or groups perceived as distinct from oneself. Explored by thinkers like Sartre and Levinas, it raises questions about identity, recognition, and the ethical responsibility we have toward those different from us. Gisela Pankau. Gisela Pankau was a psychoanalyst known for her work integrating phenomenology with psychoanalysis, particularly in understanding schizophrenia. She emphasized the significance of bodily experiences and spatial awareness in the psyche, offering a novel approach to the relationship between mental and physical realities in psychotherapeutic practice. Phenomenon. A phenomenon refers to anything that appears or is experienced, emphasizing how objects are perceived rather than what they are in themselves. In Kantian philosophy, phenomena are contrasted with noumena, highlighting the divide between experience and reality beyond human cognition. Philosophy of matter. The philosophy of matter explores the fundamental nature of the physical world, questioning what matter is, how it exists, and whether it is reducible to smaller particles or fields. It intersects with physics, metaphysics, and ontology, addressing debates about materialism and the mind-body relationship. Philosophy of self. The philosophy of self examines the nature of personal identity, consciousness, and self-awareness. It delves into questions like, what makes you you? And how does the self persist through time? Schools of thought range from Cartesian dualism to Buddhist notions of anatman, no self. Physical object. A physical object is any material entity that occupies space and has measurable properties, such as mass or volume. Philosophical discussions focus on their existence, whether they exist independently of perception or are constructs of the mind, as debated in realism versus idealism. Plane of immanence. The plane of immanence in Deleuzian philosophy is a conceptual space where all entities and events exist without hierarchy or transcendence. It represents a field of pure potentiality and interconnectedness, rejecting dualistic separations like subject, object, or mind-body. Poiesis. Poiesis, derived from Greek, means to bring forth and refers to the act of creation or production. In Heidegger's philosophy, it signifies the process of revealing, particularly how something comes into being, bridging the gap between the material and the metaphysical. Popper's three worlds. Karl Popper's three worlds distinguish between 1. The physical world of objects, 2. The mental world of thoughts and experiences, and 3. The world of objective knowledge, such as scientific theories and cultural artifacts. This framework highlights how knowledge interacts with both material and mental realities. Pratyatyasamutpada. Pratyatyasamutpada, dependent origination, is a central Buddhist concept that explains how phenomena arise interdependently. It teaches that nothing exists independently. Everything is interconnected and conditioned by other factors, offering profound insights into causality and the nature of existence. Primary-secondary quality distinction. This distinction, introduced by Locke, separates qualities inherent in objects, primary, like size and shape, from those dependent on perception, secondary, like color and taste. It frames debates on how much of reality is objective versus subjective in nature. Principle. A principle is a fundamental truth or law that underlies a system of thought or reality, guiding reasoning and action. Philosophers distinguish between logical, ethical, and metaphysical principles, debating their origins, universality, and application in understanding existence. Problem of mental causation. The problem of mental causation questions how mental states, like beliefs or desires, can cause physical actions in a world governed by physical laws. It challenges dualist and physicalist views alike, probing the interaction between mind and body in metaphysics and philosophy of mind. Problem of universals. The problem of universals concerns whether properties like redness or beauty exist independently of particular objects. Realists argue universals exist beyond the material world, while nominalists claim they are mere names or concepts with no independent existence. Qualia. Qualia are the subjective, first-person experiences of sensory perceptions, such as the redness of an apple or the pain of a headache. Philosophers argue about whether qualia can be reduced to physical processes, posing challenges to materialist views of consciousness. Quantifier variance. Quantifier variance is a concept in ontology that suggests the existence of objects depends on the linguistic framework or criteria we use. Proposed by Eli Hirsch, it challenges debates about metaphysical reality, arguing that many disputes arise from differing conceptual schemes rather than substantive differences. Reality. Reality refers to the true nature of things, independent of perception or belief. It encompasses everything that exists, from physical objects to abstract concepts. Philosophical inquiries into reality investigate how much of it is accessible to human experience and understanding. Relation, philosophy. In philosophy, relation examines how entities are connected or interact with one another. It addresses questions about the nature of relationships, whether they are intrinsic to objects or constructed through perception. and their role in defining existence and truth. Res extensa. Res extensa, a term from Cartesian dualism, refers to the extended material substance that constitutes the physical world. It contrasts with res cogitans, thinking substance, emphasizing the spatial, tangible aspect of reality. Royal Commission on Animal Magnetism. The Royal Commission on Animal Magnetism was an 18th century investigation into the practice of mesmerism, hypnotism. It reflected philosophical and scientific debates about the nature of life force, mind-body interaction, and the reality of invisible energies. Sephirot. The Sephirot are 10 attributes or emanations through which God interacts with the world in Kabbalistic thought. They symbolize different aspects of divine energy and creation, illustrating a complex system of relationships between the divine and the universe. Self. Self refers to the individual being, encompassing personal identity, consciousness, and subjectivity. Philosophical discussions on the self explore its continuity over time, its relationship to others, and its nature, whether it is a unified whole or fragmented. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the capacity to reflect on one's own thoughts, feelings, and existence. It plays a central role in personal identity, moral responsibility, and consciousness, distinguishing humans from other beings. Simple philosophy. In philosophy, simple refers to entities that have no parts or divisions. This concept is used to discuss the nature of objects, substances, or concepts that cannot be broken down into smaller components, like a fundamental particle or a universal principle. Simulation hypothesis. The simulation hypothesis suggests that what we perceive as reality could be an artificial simulation, created by advanced technology or beings. Philosophers and scientists debate its implications for knowledge, existence, and our understanding of reality. Something, concept. Something is a fundamental existential concept, referring to anything that exists or can be conceived to exist. It lies at the heart of metaphysical inquiry, raising questions about the nature and properties of existence. Sophic and Mantic. In philosophy and spiritual traditions, Sophic refers to rational, wisdom-driven knowledge, while Mantic pertains to intuitive, mystical, or prophetic knowledge. These two ways of knowing are central to understanding truth and reality. Soul. Soul refers to the immaterial essence or life force that animates living beings. In philosophy, it is debated whether the soul is immortal, capable of existence beyond the physical body, or a construct without tangible substance. Soul flight. Soul flight refers to the experience in various mystical and spiritual traditions where the soul departs from the body, often during dreams, visions, or meditation. It raises philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness and the soul's existence. Space. Space is a fundamental aspect of existence, encompassing the physical dimension where objects and events occur. Philosophical discussions on space investigate its nature, whether it is infinite, relative, or a construct dependent on physical matter. State of affairs, philosophy. A state of affairs is a situation or configuration of entities in the world, considered from an ontological perspective. Philosophers examine how states of affairs constitute reality and the truth of propositions. Subject and object, philosophy. Subject and object are key distinctions in philosophy, dividing the knower, subject, from what is known, object. This relationship is central to discussions on knowledge, perception, and how the world is experienced. Subjunctive possibility. Subjunctive possibility refers to what could have happened or could exist under different conditions. It plays a crucial role in modal logic and metaphysical debates about potentiality, necessity, and the nature of reality. System. A system in philosophy is a coherent set of interrelated ideas, principles, or entities that work together to form a unified whole. Systems thinking is fundamental in metaphysics, ethics, and epistemology, guiding how complex phenomena are understood and organized. Tao. The Tao is a central concept in Taoism, representing the fundamental, eternal, and unnameable way that underlies the universe and guides all natural processes. It is the source of all things, embodying the balance between opposites and the flow of life. Teleonomy. Teleonomy refers to the appearance of purposeful design or end-directed processes in natural systems, without implying a guiding intelligence. It is often used in biology to explain functions and adaptations in living organisms as if they were purpose-driven. Temporal parts. Temporal parts is a metaphysical concept that argues objects are extended in time as well as space. According to this view, an object consists of different temporal segments or moments, each part existing at different times. Term logic. Term logic is a branch of logic that focuses on terms and their relationships. It examines how statements can be broken down into simpler components, subjects, predicates, and terms, and how they combine to form logical propositions. Theater of the absurd. Theater of the absurd is a genre of drama that explores existential themes like meaninglessness and the absurdity of human life. It often portrays characters trapped in situations where traditional narrative logic and reason break down, exemplified by playwrights like Samuel Beckett. Theory of art. The theory of art investigates the nature, purpose, and interpretation of art. Philosophical inquiry into art explores questions about aesthetic value, expression, creativity, and the cultural impact of artistic works. Theory of categories. The theory of categories deals with the classification and organization of concepts and phenomena. It explores how different categories relate to each other and how these groupings shape our understanding of reality. Theory of mind. The theory of mind examines the nature of mental states, consciousness, and the mind-body relationship. It includes discussions on perception, cognition, intention, and the self, often intersecting with philosophy of psychology. Thing in itself. The thing in itself is a concept introduced by Kant, referring to things as they exist independently of human perception or thought. It contrasts with phenomena, which are how things appear to observers. Thought. Thought is the process of using one's mind to consider or reason about something. It involves ideas, beliefs, and mental activities that shape understanding, decision-making, and communication. Time. Time is a fundamental dimension in which events occur in a sequential order. Philosophical discussions about time explore its nature, whether it is real or merely a human construct, its relation to space, and how it affects human existence. Time perception. Time perception is the subjective experience of time passing. It involves how the brain processes temporal information, influencing how we perceive duration, speed, and the sequence of events. Transworld identity. Transworld identity is the idea that certain entities, like persons, can exist in different possible worlds with the same essential properties. It addresses questions of identity across possible scenarios and alternate realities. Tree of knowledge. Philosophy. The tree of knowledge is a metaphor used to illustrate the systematic classification and organization of all human knowledge. It captures how different branches of knowledge, philosophy, science, art, interconnect and relate. Trope. Philosophy. A trope in philosophy refers to an individual instance or particular manifestation of a property, such as the redness of a particular apple. Trope theory is used to explore how properties exist in concrete things. True form, Taoism. The true form in Taoism refers to the authentic essence or natural state of things when aligned with the Tao. It represents the ideal, unchanging truth underlying all existence, according to ancient Taoist teachings. Truth-value link. The truth-value link refers to the connection between statements or propositions and their truth or falsity. It explores how truth is determined and how statements relate to reality. Turtles all the way down. The phrase turtles all the way down is used to illustrate the idea of infinite regress, where explanations need further explanations, endlessly. It questions whether there is a foundational starting point to the explanations in reality. Type-token distinction. The type-token distinction in philosophy distinguishes between types, categories or general kinds, and tokens, specific instances or individual examples. It's used in discussions of language, objects, and representation. Uji, being time. Uji is a concept from Japanese philosophy, particularly in the works of Dogen, which combines being, you, with time, ji. It suggests that existence and time are inherently interconnected, emphasizing that being is always unfolding in the present moment. Uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is a concept in robotics and human-computer interaction, referring to the unsettling feeling people experience when they encounter humanoid robots or computer-generated beings that almost but not quite resemble human beings. Unity of opposites. The unity of opposites is a philosophical principle that suggests that opposites, such as good and evil, light and dark, are interconnected and depend on each other for meaning. It reflects the idea that contrary forces exist in a dynamic, interdependent relationship. Universal mind. The universal mind is a philosophical and metaphysical concept found in various traditions, including Hinduism and certain strands of Neoplatonism. It refers to an overarching, all-encompassing consciousness or intelligence that transcends individual minds and connects all beings. Unmoved mover. The unmoved mover is an essential concept in the philosophy of Aristotle, describing a first cause or primary force that initiates motion in the universe without itself being moved. It is the ultimate source of all motion and change. Unobservable. Unobservable refers to phenomena or entities that cannot be directly perceived or detected by human senses. In science and philosophy, it raises questions about the nature of reality and how knowledge can be obtained about things beyond direct observation. Orthodoxa. Orthodoxa is a term used in German idealism, particularly in Hegelian philosophy, referring to the original, intuitive knowledge that exists before rational reflection. It captures the instinctive understanding that precedes and underlies logical thought. Value, ethics. Value in ethics pertains to the worth or importance of actions, objects, or experiences. Philosophical discussions on value explore concepts such as moral worth, intrinsic value, and how values guide human behavior and decision-making. Vertiginous question. A vertiginous question refers to profound philosophical dilemmas that provoke a sense of dizziness or disorientation due to their depth. These questions challenge conventional thought and push the limits of human understanding. The void, philosophy. The void in philosophy refers to emptiness or nothingness, which can carry different meanings depending on the context, whether metaphysical, spiritual, or existential. It can symbolize the absence of existence or the source from which everything arises. Will, philosophy. Will in philosophy examines the capacity for individuals to make choices and take actions based on their desires, intentions, and volitions. It is central to discussions on freedom, autonomy, and human agency. Will to power. The will to power is a concept introduced by Friedrich Nietzsche, describing the fundamental drive of all human and natural actions as a force for asserting, enhancing, and expanding one's power and influence. World disclosure. World disclosure is a concept from Martin Heidegger's philosophy, referring to the process by which reality and meaning are revealed to human beings through interaction and engagement with the world. It highlights how understanding is shaped by practical involvement in existence.